Field of 68 After Dark.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Field of 68 After Dark here on the eve of Selection Sunday. We have got coverage all across the country here on Moving Day, a.k.a. Championship Week Saturday. Make sure, by the way, if you are not subscribed yet, everywhere you get your podcasts, also here on the Field of 68 YouTube page, make sure you are doing that. We will be having a Selection Sunday show, and it will go all night, starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, running all the way up until midnight. We'll be live breaking down the bracket. Of course, every single one of our analysts will join us along the way. I am joined tonight by the Godfather, Jeff Goodman. He is in Nashville for the SEC tournament. Rob Dauster, where you hear the music there at the ACC tournament in Charlotte. Mike LaTulip was in Chi-Town, just got back from the Garden. Myself, I'm Sam Ravitch. We have got, again, coverage everywhere. We're going to get to all of the championship games, titles, and crowns being punched into the NCAA tournament. We'll get to all the locations in just a second. I want to start with you, though, LaTulip, in the Big Ten championship there. A couple of semifinals game in the United Center today. Michigan 68, Wisconsin 65. We'll start with this one. Yaxel Lendenborg, Big Ten Player of the Year, reminded everybody why he won the award with a tie-breaking three-point buzzer beater to avoid a second loss to the Badgers this season. It was not without a serious push, though, LaTulip, from Wisconsin. I mean, as a shooter, I got to imagine watching Austin Rapp ripping nylon there made you smile a little bit there in the second half. But what were your takeaways from Michigan winning close here? Something that they haven't had to do much this season, but they have had to do it here as of late.
Yeah, 3 of the last 4 games, Michigan has won by a single possession. And it's weird when you're watching them. There's just this trust that you have. And I think it all stems from the defensive end, but you just kind of trust them to just get it done late. And Rapp goes nuclear. Everybody in the arena was going crazy, and yet when it was winning time, Cadeau knocks down a big three, and then even when their initial play breaks down late offensively they try to throw really a high low to Yaxel. Cadeau gets back downhill, draws 2, kicks it out, and there's Yaxel again to end it. You just always feel like this group is going to get it done. I think that bodes well for the NCAA tournament without question. I can't get over the versatility of Yaxel Lendenborg. I know we've talked about it a ton this season, but I thought this backcourt of Wisconsin was the hottest in America coming into this game. And to have a guy like Yaxel at 6'9" that you can deploy on a guy like Nick Boyd and really limit him from the field today. And it's not just one guy. I mean, they switch defensively. So that's why this defense is the best in the country. It's because if it's not Yaxel, then you got Merez switching onto you. If it's not Merez, it's Cadeau. If it's not Cadeau, it's Burnett. If it's not Burnett, it's Gale and McKinney. Like they just, no matter where you try to go, they always have an answer. But give Wisconsin a lot of credit because this was the last team I think anybody wanted to play today, and they were able to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, obviously in the lone meeting between these two, Wisconsin went 15 for 33 from beyond the arc and won by 3. Today, they make 16 triples, Goodman. They come up short. Funny that game that we love. I mean, it's on any given night that can just happen. But those 16 made 3-pointers were the most in a loss in Wisconsin basketball history. Goodman, I think if Dusty had it his way, he probably would have wanted to win this game by 20 and win it running away. They've been beating teams by 19 points per game. We know they can do that. But Michigan, to your point, like you said, LaTulip, has now won 4 straight games in which their opponent has been within 1 possession at the under 4 timeout. Does that make you a little bit more confident seeing that Michigan can win these tight games now heading into the most important time of the season?
No. And I want to throw this to LaTulip a little bit. How much does the absence of LJ Kaysen impact this team right now? Because they had 14 turnovers today. Elliot Cadeau did not play his best game. They barely won against Ohio State yesterday. Their margin, they just don't have a backup point guard now. Like, don't try to tell me Trey McKinney's a backup point guard. He's not. He's a wing that's thrust into this position. Your best offense is obviously running, their stuff through Yaxel, or even Mara to some extent, but certainly Axel is your kind of backup point guard at this point. You can run things through him. But how much do you think the season-ending injury to LJ Kaysen hurts Michigan in terms of winning 6 straight?
Well, you could feel it the last couple games, particularly here in Chicago, and the reason being, Kaysen is he's big when Cadeau goes to the bench, they play together, but when Cadeau goes to bench, he is their pace. And so when Cadeau goes out, they really, it turns into a slog offensively a little bit. And so they're still tremendous defensively, but I think when you look at the bench pieces that Michigan has, whether it's McKinney, whether it's Gale, whether it's Shetter, I mean, those guys are more complementary parts that play off of another engine, and Kaysen can be that engine coming off the bench. And so they're missing that. And I think they miss a little bit of that shake off the bench without him. And I've compared him to, kind of being Michigan's Denzel Aberdeen from last year with Florida. And we know how important Aberdeen was for that team and ultimately winning a title, because it just gives you, whether it's foul trouble with Cadeau or, whatever it may be, having that extra layer of security, it's what's made this Michigan team so potent all year is their depth. I mean, it's their bench, and their bench is still really solid. And there's 98% of America that would take their bench right now. But it's big, Jeff. I mean, that's the war of attrition that is the NCAA tournament. You need all your horses. So you've felt it for sure in the last few games here.
If Michigan, again, going for a second straight Big Ten tournament title, they will play Purdue. We'll get to how Purdue got to the title game in just a second. Rob, go ahead and chime in here. Any thoughts you have on what we've seen from Michigan as of late? Again, a lot of close games, but they have been coming out of the winning side here, and they got a chance to add into that trophy case.
Yeah, I actually think that it does help them. The question we had of this team early in the season was, yes, they were blowing teams out, but what happens when they get into dogfights? What happens when they get into wars that are going to be one-possession games? And they are winning those games. And yes, not having your backup point guard is going to be something that they struggle with. Duke doesn't have their starting point guard. We're looking at injuries are something that happens with all of these teams. We have questions about Florida's backcourt as well, right? That's been the knock on the team all season long. So I don't think it's something that precludes them from winning a championship. Maybe it knocks them down a peg or two, but I think having games like this, having moments where you have to make a winning play, having moments where Axel Lindenberg is knocking down these game-winning shots like that, they've learned how to be able to win these wars. They've learned how to be able to win in crunch time, and they still have that gear that they can throw it to, where you go and you beat teams by 25 and 30 points. So it's the hard part about talking, and this goes for Florida, this goes for Arizona, this goes for Duke, and this goes for Michigan. The hard part about talking about any of those teams is like there's so many positives that it just feels wrong when you try to say something negative about it. It's just like, of course they can win a championship. So losing that second gear is probably not going to be helpful, but I don't think that you can be battle tested and have that be a negative thing. I don't know how you can spin it that way. So I'm pleasantly surprised.
It's not the battle test, Rob. It's not the battle test that's a negative thing. It's, to me, the fact that they're playing in these close games partially because they don't have a backup point guard who might be the best backup point guard in the country, who does create so much offensively. So, like, their second unit can run away from other we've seen it happen this year, right? Like, they bring in their backups and they run away from it. And I'm not sure – that's where I'm worried. Like, it was a strength of theirs. LJ Kaysen was a major strength of Michigan's, and now it turns into a weakness in terms of if Cadeau's not having a good game, which we've seen, if he gets in foul trouble, if he gets hurt. Like, if he gets hurt, they're in major trouble now.
And I think it's worth mentioning.
You could say that about anybody. You could say that about everybody's point guard. Like, if your point guard gets hurt, yes, you're going to have a problem. Duke's point guard got hurt. They're probably going to have a little bit of a problem. It's like, yes, that's for all of these things. You can say that about anyone. What happens if Jaden Bradley gets hurt? What if that wrist injury that he had ends up being like he's got a broken scaphoid bone or whatever Kendall Marshall had in the 2012 NCAA?
Duke had a backup. Yes. But Duke had a backup. That's the difference. Now Michigan doesn't have a backup is what I'm trying to say. They don't have a backup option.
All I'm saying is this real quick. I just want to say this. Michigan won a game where they had a dude, where Wisconsin had a dude come in and make 6 straight threes in 3.5 minutes. And it's like, oh, but what about their backup point? What about that? No, they just survived a dude making 6 threes in 3.5 minutes. Like that's what championship teams do. Wisconsin just threw the best punch that they had, and Michigan took it and was like, yeah, you know what? That felt good, but we're still going to win this thing.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Rob, because I was going to say really 3 quick things. One, if Rap doesn't go nuclear and this is a 12-point win, then maybe it's a completely different conversation. 2, I do think the Kaysen injury is big for this team. I do not think it prevents them from winning a national championship. Maybe the margin for error gets a little bit smaller, but they're still just so damn good. I mean, they still have so many different options, and like they threw it into Mara in the second half a lot more to just kind of stabilize things. Yaxel hits the big shot. He's the point of attack defender. I mean, they got guys all over the place. And then Merez is doing what he does. I have no concerns about this Michigan team, but I will agree with you, Jeff. Like it can't not be talked about because Kaysen's phenomenal.
Well, and that's what I was going to follow up to on, Mike, because it's not like Michigan has shot the lights out this entire year. That's not their game. They're not a 3-point shooting team, but it has been a little bit glaring. And Kaysen was the only player on this team to shoot it over 40% from beyond the arc. So far in Chicago, 29% from deep against Ohio State, 32% from deep against Wisconsin today. They've obviously shown like they can win games without that. But for a team to go the distance in the tournament, sometimes you need one of those games where you hit 9, 10 threes, right? I mean, that has to play a role in this.
They'll have
the
them.
other thing, guys, Ohio State and Wisconsin, like those are nice wins. But like we're talking about when they have to play the big boys. I'm not talking about them winning games in the first and second round without LJ Kaysen. They're going to be able to do that. I'm talking about when they get to the Final Four, when you're playing against these other elite teams, and then you're without LJ Kaysen. How much does that affect you? Because we've seen, again, Cadeau struggle at times.
All right. Permission to move to the Wisconsin side of things here, because we've pretty much always known that Wisconsin and this backcourt can do what they have done. With Blackwell and with Boyd, any one of them can go off for 25 on a given night. But with Nolan Winter out with that ankle injury at the end of the season, there were some real questions around what this team could do defensively, especially around the rim. How impressive has the play been of Austin Rapp? We saw what he did on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, him and Alexis, pronounce his last name for me, Biliauskas. Biliauskas, that's what I thought. How impressive they've been on the defensive side of things for this team.
Huge. I mean, I thought those two guys, they switched yesterday against Illinois. I thought they both held up in those switches. And Biliauskas picking up the slack on the glass as well. Winter's the best rebounder. And he's one of their best cutters too. And so seeing those guys, the physicality that they bring, even in this game against Michigan, who is one of the most physical teams in America, they still brought it. And I think the common theme, and I'll touch on Rapp here for a second, because you see it when Boyd's out there. I've talked about the toughness of this group. When you're watching them live, like you just believe in them. They just make you believe in them. And Rapp before he got on his heater was 3 of 17 from 3 in the Big Ten tournament. Right. And all of a sudden he does that. Because they just don't have any concept for like discouragement or like, getting down on themselves. And I think it starts with that staff. I've mentioned this 3 nights in a row now, but that staff is so important to this. And there's just a mentality and a toughness that team has that makes you feel like, man, I would not want to see them. If they're a 5 seed and you're a 4, or if you're a freaking 1, I don't know. I would not want to see that team in the round of 32 or the Sweet 16.
It's because when they get confident and when they get rolling, they have a different gear that they can hit, right? There's not very many teams in the country that have 2 guards that can go get you 30 on any given night, can also add 5 assists, and could do it without turning the ball over. There's not very many teams that combine 2 guards that are that good at taking over a game with a bunch of big guys that can make shots, space the floor, and also, by the way, are good enough on the defensive end against – like they did a really good job against that Michigan front court today. So they are a dangerous, dangerous team.
Yeah, I
Goodman, go ahead. Last thoughts.
Yeah, just they've said it. I mean, those guards, if they get hot, the biggest thing for them is obviously they got to be able to rebound the ball. They got to be able to rebound the ball. But like those two guards, when they're on fire, they're as good as anybody in the country. They've shown it. I mean, they've had some of the biggest wins of any team in the country this year, and we didn't really expect this. Actually, Rob, I think, had Wisconsin as a preseason top 25-ish team, and I kind of poo-pooed it. But Nick Boyd has been way better than I thought he would be this year. He's taken another jump from FAU. Certainly, he's taken a couple jumps from FAU, Nick Boyd, and a major jump from San Diego State, Nick Boyd. So, those guys, I wouldn't want to play them either.
Well, real quick, 20 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead,
20
Mike.
seconds. How about the development for all these guards that have come to Wisconsin? John Tanji, Nick Boyd, AJ Storr. Like, AJ Storr was pretty much at his best when he was at Wisconsin. And so I just Johnny Davis. I mean, it's you go on down the line. It's become like guard you the last few years. It's felt like.
Yeah, it's a great point, Mike. And look, if there's any solace in this loss that Wisconsin fans can take, look, they'll have an extra day of rest, which is actually something that they have not had the last 2 seasons, having played in the Big Ten title game. So the latest on Winter as well, from the man himself, said he will be available for the NCAA tournament next week. So that will also be a huge plus for this Wisconsin team. We're going to take a quick break. We'll hit the second semifinal game from Chicago, Purdue and UCLA. The Bruins with some injury concerns heading into the dance. We'll also hit on Purdue, a team. Are we starting to buy in a little bit more? All that and more coming up next on the Field of 68 After Dark.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. March Madness is here, and you know what that means. It's a time of excitement and a time when legends are forged. In other words, it's a time to wear chubby. Skies out, thighs out, baby. It's getting warmer. The clock's moved up an hour, and it's time for Chubbies. Chubbies was founded in 2011 by a group of friends with a simple mission: rid closets of uncomfortable clothes and put the fun back in functional fits. They set out to create shorts, trunks, and polos that put personality back into your wardrobe with fits that look good and feel even better. Chubby shorts aren't just insanely comfortable. They're built with premium fabrics that are quick drying, wrinkle resistant, and antimicrobial. Chubbies keeps you comfy, casual, and dangerously confident. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners a 20% off discount with code F68 at chubbiesshorts.com. That's 20% off your order with code F68. Give your thighs the VIP treatment that they deserve. Support our show and tell them we sent you.
Back here on Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM. Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman, Mike LaTulip, I'm Sam Ravitch. Let's hit the second semifinal game from Chicago, Mike. Purdue, UCLA, quite frankly, again, two teams that had some questions to answer of their own with the way that they have played at times this season. Purdue comes out on top 73-66. Story of this game, Oscar Clough, the Boilermaker big man, 17 points, 14 rebounds. 9 of those were offensive rebounds, 17 second chance points for Purdue in that win. I want to get to the injuries piling up for Mick Cronin's UCLA Bruins in a second. But has the Purdue confidence meter been rising in the Mike LaTulip household based off of what we've seen not only today, but this entire week?
Yes, very much so. And I think Purdue had a solid draw. I think this was a really good draw for Purdue. They had Northwestern, then Nebraska, Then you get UCLA knocking off Michigan State. But to me, like at this point in the season, I care way more about a team's process in these tournaments. And their superpower all season, Purdue's, is their execution. It has to be. And I just feel like that escaped them, particularly on the defensive end. And they've recaptured that. And they've executed at such a high level in Chicago, defensively, offensively. And they've done it. I mean, Braden Smith's averaging 5 points a game in the Big Ten tournament. But he has 35 assists in 3 games. It's just, it's unbelievable. And you mentioned Clough, Sam. These 3 games, it's truly looked like he's been playing against like children. Like that's really what it looks like out there. He has been so physical, and his presence has been felt. I think he's 15 and 11, in these 3 games. And that's exactly what this team needs, because we know what we're getting from Trey Kaufman-Renn. Lawyers kind of found himself the last 10 games or so, and everything seems to be coming together for this Purdue team. And that team that I've watched the last 3 days in Chicago, that team can get to Indy. There's no question about it. That they've been really impressive. I think like today, Purdue had a 6 minute and 30-second scoring drought. That would have been fatal for them a few weeks ago. But, they were 1 for 12 from the field. They had 2 points over an 8.5 minute span. And the reason why UCLA wasn't able to blow the thing open is because they did their work early defensively. And that's been the story there in Chicago. I've been really impressed, really, really impressed with Boilers.
I agree with you on a lot of that, Mike, right? I think that there's something to be said about Braden Smith's kind of emotional security, that he has no problem averaging 5 points a game in a tournament setting in his last year, running through all of this stuff and being happy with the win. My counterpoint would be they beat Northwestern. They beat a Nebraska team that is probably like the least talented contender that you have in the Big Ten. And they beat a UCLA team that didn't have Tyler Bilodeau and that didn't have Donovan Dent for the last 30 minutes of that game. So, yes, they got right. It was a big run. They needed to find a way to be able to gain some confidence, but it's not like they went out there and they beat Michigan, Illinois, and Michigan State en route to the final tomorrow.
Counterpoint to your counterpoint would be, I mean, what would everybody be saying if they dropped that game to Northwestern or to Nebraska or today to UCLA when it's Donovan Dent's out and Tyler Bilodeau's out? Like they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're taking care of business, and you can't watch this team the last 3 games and tell me that it doesn't look different than how they finished the regular season. It does. Like it's a confident group. They're I think they just kind of have more swagger to them right now, and they're doing it. The one point I think I could make, Rob, is yes, they've been able to survive with Braden. I mean, I just like quick math here. That's like 4 of 22 from the field in the Big Ten tournament. That's got to change. I think once you get the Big Ten tournament, you're talking about getting it, like that's got to change, and it will change because it's Braden freaking Smith. So yeah, I want to give a team credit for taking care of business. I mean, the draw is the draw. All these other teams, the top teams outside of Michigan, Nebraska, Michigan State, Illinois, they're out of there. They're gone. Purdue's still alive.
They needed this. They just needed whatever it took to get wins, just to kind of get them back on track, feeling good. And it's going to come down to matchups for Purdue. We know that regardless. But if Purdue can make a run to the Elite Eight this year, I think that is a pretty successful season. Given where they stand at this point, given where they were a month ago, and to me, again, Clough playing well, Fletcher playing better, they've got enough to make win 3 games, and who knows who they play in the Elite Eight if they get there. So they needed this bad. However, they got it.
Yeah. Over the 3 games, to y'all's point, in the Big Ten tournament, Clough and TKR have combined to average 17 points per game and 10 rebounds per game. Just takes a lot of pressure off that perimeter. So Michigan and Purdue in the Big Ten title game. Again, just a quick reminder, Michigan won the regular season meeting, the lone one inside Mackey Arena. That was 90-81. But 4 games in 4 days for Purdue. We'll see how they handle that. Let's get to some of the big winners across the country. Couple of teams punching tickets to the NCAA dance tonight. We'll start in the Big 12 tournament. Final score, Arizona 79, Houston 74. Goodman, you were out there at the Big 12 tournament for a good portion of this week. You've seen both of these teams, talked to a lot of them. If I were to tell you Kingston Flemings has 8 points in this game, Milos Uzan with 8 points, and Chris Sinak Jr. with 5, I mean, you're not going to really have a chance going up against Arizona with that kind of output.
Yeah, and when JoJo leads you in scoring,
right,
that's not a good thing for the Houston Cougars. That's not a good thing. So he had 20 points. But, again, you're not winning. And I really do worry about Uzan to me. He just, again, he looks lost out there. He just looks lost, where last year, second half of the year, he was so good with the ball in his hands. They kind of changed the offense for him coming off the Jamal Shed year. And now he just kind of looks like he doesn't really know where he fits. And when Flemings has an off game, they're in major trouble. And for Arizona, man, as bad as the freshmen were yesterday, Koa Pete and Braden Burries, and Burries was atrocious yesterday in the semifinals, he was that good today. You know, he just shows how quickly he can turn it on. You know, even when he's kind of quiet, all of a sudden, his like spurt ability is crazy. And Koa Pete was great, and we know what Karchenkov can do, and he's starting to make shots with more consistency. So this team, man, like I'm all in. I told you guys yesterday, it took me longer than most, but they've got all the pieces. They've got absolutely all the pieces. The only thing you worry about is they don't take a ton of threes, but you know what? They make enough threes. They make enough. Their percentage is always pretty good.
I think I've kind of gotten to the point now where I feel like Arizona, to me, is probably my favorite to win the national title. When you, with all things considered, yes, right? How good they are defensively, the size and physicality they have inside, what they can do defensively on the perimeter with Burries and Jaden Bradley and Karchenkov. The fact that they have the best closer in college basketball right now in Jaden Bradley. They don't have issues with having like an injury right now, right? Like they don't have the Caleb Foster thing to deal with. They don't have the LJ Kaysen thing to deal with. They haven't gotten smacked by 20 in Nashville like Florida did today. I'm kind of at that point right now. And like the 3-point concern, I get it, Goodman. But my thing with that is they don't need to shoot threes because they are so good at getting shots at the rim when they want to get shots at the rim, right? And they get so much stuff in transition and they get so much stuff off the offensive glass that I think it kind of nullifies that need. And when you can just kind of wear teams down with the size that you have, I'm at the point now where I think that they are the favorite to win it.
Yeah,
back me up, Mike. I heard you say yeah.
No, I agree. No, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. And all the points you make are valid on Arizona. And yeah, the 3-point volume concerns, it's exactly what you said, Rob. Like they're so good at finding early with their pace. They're so good at finding early advantages and shuffling the deck defensively that I don't think they feel the need to settle. And that's why even today, I mean, they double up Houston on the free throw line. And they're top 25 nationally getting to the free throw line. Like that's kind of stuff can level out the 3-point volume concerns that someone may have. Now, like I think, are you going to run into a team in the tournament like a Wisconsin that makes 16 threes on you? Can you do enough there to balance out that 3-point disparity? I think this team can because they're so potent in so many other areas.
I got a little stat nugget for you here, Goodman. Koa Pete, Braden Burries, each with 20+. The only other time a pair of Arizona teammates each had 20 points in a conference tournament final, Luke Walton, 23, Salim Stoudemire, 29, in the 02 Pac-10 final against USC. But the question there is, in March, we have seen veteran teams win. And there's no question Arizona relies heavily on a couple of freshmen. Does that ever at least come into the back of your mind when you enter a tournament like March? Like, hey, they've never been there. I see Rob shaking his head no.
So these freshmen, though, let me jump in. These freshmen are typical freshmen. That's what I would say. Like, these aren't your typical freshmen. Koa Pete, we've seen him play for a couple of years. He honestly, he's had the maturity of somebody that's 3 or 4 years older. I hadn't seen a lot of Braden Burries. before this year, but same thing. And again, you talk to people within that locker room, they rave about the chemistry of this team, the togetherness of this team, and the fact that, like, they don't really care who gets their numbers on this team. I mean, they're all playing. All these guys are thinking they're going to be in the league next year, and none of them play that way. Like, all of them. Krivas certainly could be a first-round pick. Jaden Bradley fighting to probably he could be an NBA point guard, backup point guard. Burry's a lottery pick. Koa Pete, his stock has fallen, but he's certainly in the first round right now. Karchenkov, I think there's a place for him in the NBA. None of them play like that, though. None of them are hunting. And it's amazing the job Tommy Lloyd has done putting together this team and making sure that young guys like this, these two freshmen, come in with that care. Like, I remember when Burry's committed, I think they took Bryce James before him. And I'm thinking to myself, the only reason they took Bryce James was to get Burry's. I mean, what a pick, right? Like, who cares? That's a hell of a pick. I don't care if Bryce James plays or not. You got Braden Burry's now. That might win you a national title at the end of the day, taking Bryce James just to get Braden Burry's.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, too, is they do have freshmen. Yeah, everything you just said is correct. They do have freshmen. Those freshmen are mature. They don't play like freshmen, blah, 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 blah. All those platitudes and kind of cliches are correct. I think the biggest thing is that they are old in the spots that you want to be old to be able to win a championship. And that's at the 5 spot where they got one of the best defensive anchors in Mateus Krivas, who is so good. I said this last night. He's so good at just being big and in the way. And that's like a skill. It's kind of Ryan Kalkbrenner did the same thing. Big in the way, don't foul, be vertical at the rim, contest. He's very good at that. And then Jaden Bradley, what else can we say about Jaden Bradley at this point? He didn't have his best game tonight, but he came back and he fought through a wrist injury and he made some big plays. And he had a couple of deflections late in that game that helped keep it from it felt for a second like Houston was going to pull off the kind of comeback they did against Duke in the Final Four, and they did not. But he's old. He's a veteran. He plays like he's been around for 25 years because it feels like he has been around for 25 years. And correct me if I'm wrong, he did play in the Final Four with was that the Alabama team? Was he on that Alabama team that played in the Final Four, or was he there the year before that?
I don't think he was on that team. Yeah, I don't
year
think
before.
Yeah, but he's a veteran that's been around and has played in a lot of big games, and he plays like it, man. So that's my biggest thing. They might be young, but they're old in the spots that you want to be old.
Right. And I'll add on Karchenkov. Yeah, no, just real quick. I mean, Karchenkov, I think truly, I'll keep it to freshman, but I really do believe that on the broader scale in college basketball, I think he's the most underrated, like one of the most underrated players we have in college basketball. I really believe that. And you look at it, and this team has great balance to begin with, but if you just drop somebody on their couch and was like, watch Arizona, and you looked at Karchenkov, there is no chance you would think that's a freshman. And to me, it's the way he guards. He's competitive. He's tough. He can guard 1 through 4. He's strong, and then he's been in double figures here the last. He's obviously averaging double figures, but he's just been so consistent. Like he's been such a stabilizing force for them on the wing, and that's so rare to see from a guy was kind of a relative unknown coming into the season.
It's the 10th conference tournament title for the Arizona Wildcats. It's their first outside of the Pac-12. Tommy Lloyd, a coach I think a lot of people would say has some pressure on him heading into this NCAA tournament. I would say another coach that has some pressure heading on him into the NCAA tournament would be Jon Scheyer. His Duke Blue Devils just taking down Virginia in the ACC title game. Final score, 74-70. Rob, you were there sitting courtside. Want to get your thoughts on the team that went 32-2 this year. ACC champions back-to-back years for the National Player of the Year. Duke will be your number 1 seed when you watch your Selection Sunday show. Rob, what do you make of their performance this week in Charlotte?
I thought there were 2 things to me that really kind of stood out. The first was how good Caden Boozer was, especially in the first half. I think he had 14 points in the first half. I'm bringing up the box score right now. Make sure I have it in front of me. And he finished with 16. He had a huge offensive rebound late in that game where Virginia kind of stymied Duke on a big possession with about 2 minutes left. It was tied at 66. Isaiah Evans missed a contested at 3, and Caden Boozer slipped in and got the offensive rebound. 16 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, knocked down a 3, was able to get to the paint, was able to kind of play under control. Duke in the first half, everything was Spain action, and he was the guy that was really able to take advantage of it. The other part is, for the first time this entire season, right, it took to game 34 to really see Cam Boozer get frustrated, right, to really see him just kind of get to a point where, like, he didn't know what to do. And that was because of the length of Ngana and Yesu around the rim, who had 9 blocks, and I think 8 of them were against Boozer. One of them was on a dunk attempt. He had a couple where he stayed down on 2, 3, 4 pump fakes and then rose up and blocked Boozer's shot. Boozer tried to play bully ball, dribble through him, and it was the first time where he really seemed like he had some issues with that size of the length, and he still finished with 8 points and 8 assists, and they turned him into a point guard. And what Duke did was they just pulled Onyeka away from the basket. They put put Boozer at the 5, put 4 shooters around him, and let him kind of pick apart the Virginia defense. And I think when you have Cam Boozer, there's too many Boozers. When you have Cam Boozer going 3 for 17 from the floor, and you're still able to beat a Virginia team that is as good as and that Virginia team is like Elite 8 good. Like that is a really, really good team with really, really good guards and really, really good rim protection. And they were able to win despite the fact that the player of the year went 3 for 17. He was 3 for 17, and I think he had one of he had 3 turnovers, and that actually feels a little bit low. But 3 for 17 from the floor for Cam Boozer, and you're still able to win a game against this Virginia team. It's really impressive to watch.
And down 2 starters too, Goodman. I mean, you brought up the LJ Kaysen thing with Michigan and how it may limit them when it comes to coming up against a really, really good team in March. I would have the same questions about Duke and where they're sitting now down 2 starters. You agree?
Yeah, 100%. And, again, really good sign that, like Rob said, you can win with the best player in the country shooting 3 for 17 against a good, healthy Virginia team. But again, I mean, you need Big Pat back. You need Gangba back. That's a given. I don't think you're going to get Caleb Foster back the rest of the way. I just would be shocked. So, Caden Boozer's got to be consistent. He's got to give him something offensively. We know he can kind of run the team. He's going to get more and more comfortable kind of as this thing goes along. The beauty of the Boozers, Rob said he got rattled. Okay, he got rattled for Cam Boozer. For most guys, that wasn't rattled. Okay, like for Cam Boozer, yes, he showed a little bit of emotion today because he was dealing with Big Ugana and Yensu. But for the most part, he still plays a pretty solid game. And
that's a great point. Like it's both of them. I'm really glad that you said that because Cam Boozer, like him getting rattled, he had one pass where he kind of like tried to throw it to his brother on the wing and it slipped out of his hands and he threw it at his feet and it was a turnover. And there were like 2 or 3 times where he tried to go straight through Onyesu's chest, which is what you're supposed to do, and finish at the rim, which is what you're supposed to do and what you're taught to do. And he wasn't able to do it. And you could see it bothered him a little bit, but they still made big free throws down the stretch and made the right plays late in the game. Caden Boozer against Florida State, the first half when they were dorking him, when they weren't guarding him at the 3-point line, it got him all out of sorts. And then in the last 10 minutes of that game, he made 2 plays to help them come back from an 8-point deficit. Then yesterday, he was really good. And today, I think it was probably the best game that I can remember.
That's who they are, man.
Playing this
That's
season.
who they are.
And it's like they get rattled, and it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. They're so good. And the idea, I am kind of kicking myself a little bit because I did kind of say, I'm a little bit worried about Kate. We were mostly kind of saying the bigger issue was getting Ngongwa back, but I'm a little bit worried about Caden. No, Caden Boozer, man, he's ready for the moment. He was terrific tonight.
And I think too, Mike, like I think we came on after dark after the first meeting between these two when Duke blew them out by 20 points in Cameron Indoor. And like I said, I picked Virginia outright to upset Duke there. And I was foolish to do that maybe, but Virginia was the only team I thought in this conference that could literally look Duke in the eye physically and size-wise and at least give them a fight. They did it tonight. Final word on Duke's performance here in the ACC title as they go in to Selection Sunday as the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, I think just to add on Caden Boozer, I think coming into yesterday's game, he had played over 30 minutes in a game twice all season. And then 37 last night and went the distance tonight, all 40. And I just think the Caleb Foster injury, I think what it allowed Caden Boozer to do throughout the season was just kind of naturally progress and develop. And you could tell, like, as the season was going on, that he already has great feel, but the feel within this system that Shire and Evan Bradds has, like, that feel continued to grow. And then I think there's something that happens when you have the affirmation of being a starter. The psychology changes a little bit because, you know, you're not just getting in there to be like, all right, hey, take care of the ball and get to point A to point B and play off of guys. Like, you're the starter now, and it's a wave of confidence that you get having that affirmation. I think he has that. And look, they're going to need him. Like, this can't be, hey, Cam, backpack us to Indy. They're going to need other parts here to step up. And for sure, if they can get Gongba back, they need Gongba back because that allows Cam to, you know, be a little bit more, Gongba can be more air traffic controlled defensively, and Cam can almost like playing gaps like he does sometimes and use his physicality, I think, to an even higher degree. So I'm still bullish on Duke how could you, I don't know how I could fade them. I don't know how I could fade them right now with the coach, with the Boozers.
Cam Boozer. You can't.
So saying,
all he does is win. All that dude does is win games. And again, even when he's not shooting well, like, that's the beauty of Cam Boozer, right? Like, he can do other things, and he does do other things to win games.
Yeah, and one last point on that. The question about him as an NBA prospect is like, well, what happens when he gets to the league and there's length and he can't play bully ball? Where the reason they won this game is because they pulled him out away from the basket and let Cam run the point guard and force you to have Nyanso away from the rim, and you have a 6'9", 250-pound four as your point guard. All the plays they made down the stretch, every set that they ran down the stretch was, we're going to put Cam Boozer in a ball screen and have Isaiah Evans come and set a ghost screen, and that's how they got a couple looks late. And then when UVA started switching it, they were able to get Cam Boozer to the basket because you had to put a smaller guy out. So that's why it'll work. On Virginia, they had like 4 or 5 really good looks from three that didn't go down in the second half when they had a chance to really create some separation. And if those go down, I think we're having a different conversation about how this game ended up. They were close, man. That team is legit. Like, that team is good enough to be able to win some games in March. That team is good enough to make some noise. We didn't talk about them nearly enough this season. Part of that was because they just never had that big moment. But that is a really, really good basketball team.
We have 2 minutes left here. I wanted to at least have this conversation. Jon Scheyer, ACC Coach of the Year, made it to a Final Four last year. I think, if we're being honest, probably should have made it to a national title game last year. Do you guys think Jon Scheyer, out of all the coaches heading into March Madness, has the most pressure on him? Regardless, I get the injuries, but the expectations there, and it took Coach K 11 years to win a national title, but it's not 1991 anymore. This is a what have you done for me lately type of sports atmosphere that we live in, Rob. So you answer that question. Is Jon Scheyer under the most pressure to at least get to a Final Four again this year?
It's Tommy Lloyd, but I think Scheyer is going to be under pressure until he wins it because of the way that the last couple seasons ended, right? What happened with NC State in the Elite Eight in 2024 and the way it ended last year in 2025. There's going to be this narrative about Jon Scheyer and Duke until he wins it because of the happened the last 2 years. But I've said this. You've heard me say this before, and I don't know if you guys agree with me. Goodman, you might be the guy to answer this question, but I think the question is not when will Jon Scheyer win a championship. I think the question is, will he win a championship before an NBA team comes in and makes him have to go to the league and gives him an offer that he can't refuse. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
I mean, this is another conversation for another day. We'll probably do it at the Final Four. But I think it's a great one to hold. Which coach goes to the NBA first? You got a lot of candidates, Dusty May, Nate Oates, Scheyer.
Trevor Valise, write that one down. Make sure we remember to talk about it.
You got a bunch. And I'm forgetting a few because I'm dealing with 2.5 hours sleep. But
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. Goodman can get about 30 seconds of sleep while we take a break here. When we come back, we will hit what happened in Madison Square Garden. Rob Dauster, please earmuffs, because that was not pretty. So we'll hit that and a couple of other teams that are making some waves here during Champ Week. All of that and more coming up next on the Field of 68 After Dark.
We are running it back with Splash Sports, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, the Survivor contest that we hosted with Splash paid out $40,000 to the winner. This year, the grand prize pays out a guaranteed $100K. For just $25 an entry and up to 133 entries, you can get a chance to prove that you are smarter than the Field of 68. Survivor is the future of March Madness. Just pick one team every day of the tournament to win, and if they do, you advance. The catch? You can only use each team once. We're also hosting a free-to-enter bracket on Splash. If you're looking to host one of your own, Splash can handle everything for you, from the entries to the payouts to the standings. We'll be running it back with the Sweet 16 Survivor contest as well for those that do not survive the first weekend. And Splash is now offering Quick Picks, a daily fantasy game that allows you to predict whether a player reaches a certain number on a specific stat. All links are in the description below. The big dance starts soon. Get in before it tips off.
Hey everyone, Jeff Goodman here, and I'm excited to tell you about what's going on with our partners at Voodoo Rangers. You know what makes March even better? Chaos. That 111 seed that nobody believed in suddenly ruining everyone's weekend. And this year, Voodoo Ranger wants you to bet on 11. Grab a can of G-Force IPA with 11% ABV, then register that beer at bet11.com. If an 11 seed advances, you have a chance to win a juicy prize, $11,000. We're also taking a trip to Vegas, exclusive G-Force merch. And if an 11 seed pulls off an upset, 1,100 fans could win cash for their next round. It's the juiciest bet of the tournament. No brackets, no stress, just cold beer and beautiful chaos. Visit beton11.com to enter. Win or lose, still got beer. Learn more at bet11.com. You must be 21 or older. No alcohol purchase necessary. Legal in all 50 states. Full rules at beton11.com.
All right, back here on the Field 68 After Dark. We are 2 minutes away, officially 2 minutes away on the East Coast time from Selection Sunday. So it is getting close. Feels like Christmas Eve. Before we get to what transpired in the Garden here, wanted to remind everyone to make sure that you sign up for our Survivor pool on Splash Sports, where we have a $100,000 grand prize. Check the link in the description. We'll put that up there. That will be exciting as we enter and get deeper into the month of March. We got what we wanted in the Big East title game. I was there inside Madison Square Garden. Final from the world's most famous arena, St. John 72, UConn 52. Huskies came out flat, and it stayed that way for most of the first half. St. John started the game on a 10-0 run. They didn't look back. UConn trailed by 13 at the break. Cut it to 7 with 12 and a half to go there in the second half. But every time UConn had a push, St. John's was there with an answer. Now back-to-back regular season and Big East tournament champions for Rick Pitino's squad and the St. John's Red Storm. Look, Rob, I hate to say it, man, but it feels like that 32-point win that UConn sprung on St. John's 2 weeks ago feels a little bit more like an anomaly, maybe, than the norm this year for UConn, especially after the way that St. John's just out-physicaled the Huskies tonight. Your thoughts on this performance? By the way, 52 points, the third fewest scored by a UConn team under Dan Hurley in his tenure.
Yeah, it's now officially Selection Sunday, which means that we probably need to talk about what's going on with the Huskies. That's exactly what we needed to do in this moment. It's supposed to be a celebratory moment. So thanks for teaming up with us, Sam.
You're welcome.
No, I think the bottom line is this: St. John's is a better team, and it's really not that close this year. And there's a level of toughness, there's a level of physicality, there's a level of size and length and athleticism that the Johnnies have that UConn just couldn't match. And I think that there's a confidence that St. John's team has and a swagger that they have that you see from Rick Pitino teams all the time and that we used to see from Dan Hurley teams. And that's not what this group is this year. What kind of happened in this game and what kind of got UConn in trouble was they St. John, they love to establish Terrace Reed early. They want to run all this offense. They want to get him a post touch. They want to get him a steal. And they want to, if you're going to guard him one-on-one, they want to take advantage of that early. And then if you're going to double him, they want to find a way to be able to get open shot. It's like establishing the run of football. They want to establish Terrace Reed. And what St. John's does, and what they are one of the only teams that I think is really capable of doing this, is they let Zuby Ejiofor go one-on-one, because Zuby Ejiofor is probably the only guy in college basketball stronger than Terrace Reed. And there were a couple missed shots early on. There were a couple opportunities where Terrace had a post touch that did not end up in a bucket. And St. John's just completely ran UConn off the three-point line, wouldn't let them get open looks. And then they got going a little bit. It got to a 10-point deficit, and UConn was shell-shocked. And I don't think they were able to bounce back from it. It was a great game plan from Rick Pitino with a team that is better than what UConn has. And I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, I don't know what else you can say about this group and that performance right now, because that was not what you would expected to see from a championship caliber UConn team. And we've been waiting, Goodman. We've been waiting for this team to click, and it went the opposite direction. They were clicking in November, and then we got to March, and they are a shell of what they were.
I honestly can't believe it that this team you can make a case that they've regressed. They've regressed. They certainly haven't gotten better.
It's not making a case. That's a fact.
Right. I mean, they were pretty good midway through the season. And Solo Ball's never been able to kind of get this thing going. Silas Demery, he'll have games, but for the most part, he hasn't been nearly what they thought he'd be or what you needed him to be. Braylon Mullins has been good, but not great. He's been good, as a freshman, good. They don't have a dude. They don't have a bench. This team, like you said, honestly, it would be a bigger surprise to me if they go to the Final Four than if they lose in the second round at this point.
Yes, I agree with you. I don't think they're making it out of the first weekend. And it's very, I don't know how you feel about it, Sam. UConn is what, 30-4 right now? 30-4. And I think this was the least fun I've ever had watching a team win 30 games. It feels like it's kind of been.
Well, first of all, it was in the Big East this year. It was in the Big East this year. So how many of these are layups? A lot of them are layups.
That's what I'm saying. And you're in these battles and in these dogfights with teams that really aren't at the level that we thought that UConn was going to be at. And so that's been kind of frustrating. I think the biggest there's two issues, and I think that the two biggest things that they're missing, and I think Dan needs to address this in the portal going into next year. The first is that you only have one guy capable of creating. You only have one guy that's really capable of getting in the lane and make something happen. Look at their best teams. They had 2 or 3 point guards on the floor together. Cam Spencer, Steph Castle, Tristan Newton in 1 year. The year before that was Tristan Newton and Andre Jackson. You basically had two passers, 2 creators, 2 guys that could get in the paint and make something happen, 2 guys that can make life easier for everybody else. Everyone on this team was a finisher, whether it was Terrace Reed, Solo Ball, Braylon Mullins, Alex Caravan. They're all finishers. They're not guys that can go create something for somebody else. And the other part of it is there's no MF, right? You don't have the Cam Spencer that is just not going to accept the idea that this team is not going to show up the way they didn't show up in the first half. You don't have that Andre Jackson who has there's stories about what happened in during that when they lost 6 out of 8, what happened in some of those locker rooms, what happened in some of those road games. You don't have that Steph Castle who wasn't as vocal about it, but was an absolute silent assassin. And you need a little bit more leadership. You need a little bit more mental and physical toughness, I think, and you need more playmaking and shot creation on that roster if you're gonna do it. So go ahead. That's all I got to say on UConn at this point. Very frustrating.
My biggest question,
go ahead,
Sam.
Go ahead,
here's
Jeff.
my biggest question. I'll throw it to you. Because UConn isn't that good. Are we overrating St. John's a little bit? Are they really a team that could go to a Final Four now, or are they just a team that's the best team in a weak Big East, and UConn isn't that good? Where are we? I thought Dylan Darling, again, has been much better than I thought. I thought he was actually, when I was watching today, I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched a good portion of it. I thought he was better than Silas Demery when I was watching. He plays so damn hard, competes, which is what they need, right? The toughness. He didn't make shots today, but generally he can make open shots. He gets to the basket. I just don't still have confidence that they can win 4 straight. Having said that,
I don't think they're that.
Having
good.
said that,
I think,
they have Rick Pitino, so like I can't count him out. I can't count him out with Rick Pitino, can I?
And here's what I will say about them. I don't think that they're not as good as the other 4 conference champions are going to end up being. They're not one of the top 4 teams in America.
Question.
I don't know if they're a top 8 team in America, but what they do have is the size, the physicality, and the athleticism to match up with all those other teams. Their big guys are as big and as physical and as athletic as the guys on Florida, as the guys on Michigan. Maybe not as tall, but they still got the size. Like they'll be able to handle them physically, and there's a level of toughness there. And they got some shot makers that don't have a conscience, that have the ability to go and hit 2, 3, 4, 5 jumpers in a row. So do I think that they're a favorite to make a Final Four? No, definitely not. Do I think that they're capable of doing it? Yes. Do I think that is something that is likely? Probably not. But they're like a 4 seed that's dangerous, that can, like, if they end up with Florida in the Sweet 16, something like that, like, I think they could give Florida some problems.
I'll say this just about the atmosphere there inside the Garden, Rob. That was not Store South. That was a 65-35 split, I would say. St. John's is back. And that's, to your question, Jeff, they're a different team inside Madison Square Garden with the crowd that Rick Pitino has built and the culture that St. John's has. Now, will they travel? Sure. But that's a different arena that they play in, and they look like a different team in that arena. Rob, I want to know what you were about to say there.
No, if I'm taking off my UConn hat, I think objectively it is awesome that St. John's is back to being this relevant, and Rick Pitino is in New York City doing this. Now I'm going to put my UConn hat back on. It freaking sucks. I hate it, but it's Rick Pitino's Big East. It's St. John's Big East now.
Really, really quick, Rob. You said they have to go to the transfer portal to find some of the players to shot create. Is Jaden Ross one of those? Don't they already have one of them? Like, I see an Andre Jackson a little bit in Jaden Ross, a little bit.
There's a player there, and I'm really excited to see what he can be as the confidence continues to develop.
Yeah. All right. That's the final from the Garden there, 72-52. Quick toast of the night. Who's got one off the top of their head?
Blue Devils, baby. Hell of a win. Caden Boozer.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm going Anthony Grant, Dayton. Pull off the upset of St. Louis. They will play for a bid Steeler tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Arkansas and what we saw from Mr. Malik Thomas today. We'll hit that on the other side of the break. This was the Field 68 After Dark.
Taking care of your mental health shouldn't be harder than taking care of your physical health. If you pull a muscle, you go see a doctor. But when it comes to finding the right therapist, suddenly it's frustrating. You've got long wait lists or you're staring down huge out-of-pocket costs. That's where Rula comes in. Rula makes therapy simple, affordable, and fast. They work with most major insurance providers, and the average session copay is just $15. And with Rula, you're not matched and left to figure it out. They check in and they make sure that you're actually making progress. Every therapist on the platform is licensed, vetted, and picked for their expertise. So you know you're talking to someone legit, not whoever happens to be available. You answer a couple questions and Rula connects you with an in-network provider who actually fits your needs. You can be talking to a therapist as soon as the next day. Thousands of guys have already used Rula to get the care that they need. Don't keep putting it off. Go to rula.com/F68 and get started today. That's RULA.com/F68. Take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health.
These my DJ Burns shades I had for.
That was like taking them into the depths of Alaska and just dropping them off.
The first person that's gonna die gotta be one of the black guys. They're not gonna make it to the end of the movie.
That's like asking somebody, do they want to get a prostate exam or a damn gunshot wound?
Back here on the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman, I'm Sam Ravitch. Here are the after segment. Let's hit on the SEC semis from earlier today. Bridgestone Arena was jumping. Jeff Goodman, you were there. Let's start with Vanderbilt in Florida. Vandy 91, Florida 74. The once ungettable Florida Gators got chomped by Mark Byington's squad today in what was a wire-to-wire beatdown. The loss snapped a 12-game win streak, obviously, for the Gators. Gators were their own worst enemy. We'll get to them in just a second. But it was such a clash of styles in this way. This is not on paper a good matchup for Vanderbilt, I don't think. I mean, they don't have a single rotational player that is over 7 feet, but they push the pace and they force mistakes. Talk about the win for Vandy today and a team that's a lot different when they have a healthy Duke Miles.
Yeah, the ball didn't stick today. Miles and Tyler Tanner moved the ball, and you know what happened? The bigs made shots. They made Florida's bigs come out and have to guard him, and they made shots from the perimeter today. And Jalen Washington looked great, and Akira K was terrific, and Chandler Bing was playing hard as shit, and Tyler Nickel was the one big who wasn't really making shots, but everybody else was. And I rarely do this, but after the game, I actually sought out Tyler Tanner. I made sure to go in the locker room, and you look at the top point guards in the country, right? And the Cousy finalists, and they're awesome, right? Jaden Bradley, Darius Acuff Jr., Kingston Flemings, Jeremy Fears, Braden Smith. They're awesome. Like, this kid's been as good as any of them. He's been as good as any of them this year, and we forget about it. He is the driver for why Vanderbilt is going to get a top 4 seed. Think about that. Vanderbilt is going to get a top 4 seed. Who the hell thought that was happening this year? It's because of the local kid, Brentwood Academy's Tyler Tanner, who is special. He's unflappable. He makes people better. He can get to the rim and score. He doesn't look the part. He can shoot it from deep. He does everything for this team. And he's, again, as much as the bigs were awesome today, and they fought Florida's bigs too in the paint and on the glass, it's Tyler Tanner who makes this team go. And he's as good as any point guard in the country this year. And that includes Braden Smith. That includes, Fears and Acuff and Bennett Sturts, any of those guys.
I don't know if I'd quite go that far, but he is terrific. And the biggest thing about this win for Vanderbilt, and the reason why Vanderbilt fans should probably be really excited, is that Florida is, you touch on this, Sam, is the worst kind of matchup that Vanderbilt can see, that has size, that has length, that has athleticism, that pounds the glass, that blocks shots, that protects the rim, that is switchable defensively. They do all the things that on paper it looks like Vanderbilt is going to struggle with. And they were able to pick them apart, man. They used their bigs to space the floor. They were able to get Tyler Tanner and Duke Miles kind of into ball screen actions and get him into the paint and spray it out to shooters. And they made the right decision and they made the right pass. And the one thing that they do have is a pair of guards that just really, really know how to play. It was a really, really impressive performance and an eye-opening one. And I think it's one, frankly, going to change a lot of opinions about what this Vanderbilt team can end up being when you get to March, because that Florida team was playing the best basketball of anybody in college basketball at this point, right? If you go back to the loss at Auburn, since then, the only team that they hadn't beaten by double digits, they won every game. The only team they didn't beat by double digits was Kentucky, and it happened 3 times. So, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about Vanderbilt, man. That was an eye opener. That was a head turner.
And I don't even think they trailed in any of those 3 games against Kentucky either that they played this year. Coach made it clear about that. To your point on Tyler Tanner, first SEC player with 20 points on 80% shooting in an SEC tournament game since Jordan Wright, former Vanderbilt player, did so for the Doors in 2022. 5 different players scored in double figures. Little deeper on the Florida side of things, went 12 of 21 on open and contested shots. It's a bad combo, too, when they turn it over 14 times. They led to 24 Vanderbilt points. That was a big problem. Go ahead, Jeff. I mean, is that because go ahead.
I was walking out with Golden. I was walking out of the arena, and that's the biggest thing he said was like, we got to take care of the ball.
Yeah,
we got to take care of the ball. This is something that's happened a little bit lately. Happened earlier in the season. They got to make sure they take care of the ball. They can win games without making threes. They've proven that over and over this year. But what they can't do is win games without making threes and with turning over the ball.
Well, you know why? Because their best offense at times is throwing it up and going and getting it, right? Like that, they are so good on the glass on both sides of the floor. Like they're one of only they said a stat, but there have been like 3 teams in the KenPom era that have gotten more than 43% of their misses and have gotten more than 75% of an opponent's misses. They're one of the best rebounding teams that we've ever seen. And the ability to just go get it after you miss it is why they are so dangerous. And Vanderbilt did a really good job of preventing them from doing that. And when you force that turnover, then Florida doesn't have an opportunity to get a shot at the rim and go get it. Like the whole concept of what they've done, and I've mentioned this before, the whole concept of what Florida's doing is leaning into this new analytical idea that it's not shot quality that matters. It is shot quantity that matters. Win the turnover battle, win the turnover margin, win the rebounding battle, go and get the most shots you possibly can, and you're going to have a better chance to be able to win. That's what Florida has done this season, and they weren't able to do that against Vanderbilt.
Florida's first 6 losses of the season were by a combined 26 points. They lost this game alone by 17. There's a large enough sample size to negate this, Jeff, but they had a real tough time in the paint, not only in this game, but in the 2 games they played in the tournament. Averaged 33 points in the paint in the 2 games in Nashville. They are averaging 44 points in the paint per game this season. So, we've seen enough. Like, I'm not going to ask you if you're concerned about that or if that's going to lead to anything in March, but it's just odd to see them struggle a little bit the way that they have. I want to get to the Arkansas side of things here. We're going late here into Selection Sunday. Final score in overtime, Arkansas 93, Ole Miss 90. Surprisingly, this was the first SEC tournament semifinal game to go to overtime since 2005. Razorbacks probably should have taken care of business there in regulation. Credit AJ Storr and the Ole Miss Rebels for fighting back, man. They've been one of the best stories of Champ Week. During the early days of Kentucky and Cal, his tenure there, he notoriously said that, like, he doesn't really like the SEC tournament. He'd prefer to get his team ready to play for the big dance. But now in his 2nd season at Arkansas, somewhat ironically, here he is again fighting for his 7th SEC title. But the recipe, Jeff, has remained the same, and it's been on the backs of star freshmen, usually it's guards. But Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff became the first SEC freshman duo in the last 20 years to each have 20 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists in the same game. Thomas had 29, Acuff with 24. How dangerous is this Arkansas team when not just one, but both of them are on?
Acuff wasn't on for most of the game. I mean, he really struggled for the first probably 35 minutes. And then he started to kind of take over down the stretch of regulation and overtime. He played well. But Malik Thomas, man, it was the first time I'd seen either one of them in person since AAU ball. And I just forgot how explosive Malik Thomas can be offensively when you just let him go. And I think, listen, if you're John Calipari, that's what you're doing here. You're just letting Acuff and Malik Thomas go and saying, like, we're going to go as far as they can take us. It's still – Brazil is the guy that, to me, puts him over the top. And he was really good early in this game and then kind of disappeared for a stretch. But, if he can be consistent, the light goes on and stays on with him, there aren't too many teams. And just his length, man, again, in person, it's like 2 dribbles from – over half court, and he's already at the basket dunking over dudes. It's amazing what he can do. Again, I think this was probably maybe as poor of a performance as Acuff's had all year for the first 35 minutes. So it was hard to say, like, if he doesn't play well, and Ole Miss was making some crazy shots at the end. They stuck around. Travis Perry was playing well. Storr made some great shots. But again, I think this Arkansas team is a team that can make a run to an Elite Eight. Absolutely, they can make a run. I don't know if I trust them to go any further than that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that take. When it comes to Acuff, you got to remember he's been battling I think it's an ankle, right? And he played 37 minutes at 37 points last night. So he might be a little bit sore coming into this one. I don't know if it's going to be a great idea to go 37 minutes, play 40 in an overtime game, and then come back the next night and have to go deal with Vanderbilt and Tyler Tanner in the championship of the SEC tournament. But hey, you know what? That dude is a freaking gamer, and that's why I love him. The funniest thing, it's a little off topic, but the funniest thing about that backcourt is like Darius Acuff is really smooth and he's really under control, and the way that he plays is pretty aesthetically pleasing. And then you got Malik Thomas, who's like all violence and all action and all herky jerky and elbows flying everywhere. And it's just like, I don't know how he gets where he's getting to, but it works, man. He's a really entertaining player to watch because it's just, it doesn't look pretty at all, and it just works. My concern, Goodman, they got 7 guys. That they really only play 7 guys, and their guards. DJ Wagner comes in, and it's like he'll sub this guy for 2 minutes, this guy for 2 minutes, this guy for 2 minutes, and he's back to the bench. And they rotate through Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle. I think in a dream, Coach Cal would only play. It'd be the 2 guards, it'd be Richmond at the 3, Brazil at the 4, and they rotate the bigs, whoever's not in foul trouble. Yeah. And that's a risky proposition as you get to March when you don't have that much depth.
It's stupid. It's not risky. It was a dumb move in the preseason to have 8 guys. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. You had more money than that. Go to Tyson and ask for another $1 million. Go get another guy that could be your 9th man. What are we doing here? The funniest part, by the way, guys, is only Calipari can do, and I know this is inside baseball, but Pete Thamel asked him a question in the postgame, and he asked him about hey, you were the underdog last year. What does it feel like to get Arkansas back again, where you're playing in the SEC title game? Not only Arkansas back, but you being back there, and you're not the underdog anymore. And he answers the question sort of, and then he says, "Yeah, and how about Bam Adebayo going for 80, whatever it was, 3, out of nowhere, just one." And then he had certain stats in his head that he had to say of how many players have scored 40 points that ever played for him. It was just SoCal. Always
Cruton, man. Always be Cruton. Always be Cruton.
I was going to ask. Go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just going to say that matchup between those backcourts tomorrow with Duke Miles and Tyler Tanner and Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas is going to be that is going to be really, really fun.
Vandy will have a chance to win its 4th conference tournament title in program history. Arkansas has only won 1 before, and it came all the way back in 2000. I did mention it, Goodman. I want to ask you this because I was thinking about it on the train back from the Garden. So this is Cal's 7th. It would be his 7th SEC championship win if they can beat Vanderbilt tomorrow afternoon. Where would this one rank in his career achievements, given how he had to construct this roster pretty much from scratch at the start of the year?
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, he's got money. So it's not like, he was broke together this roster, right? And he got Acuff, who's a top. I mean, both him and Malik were top 20 freshmen. I don't know what Malik was ranked, but Acuff was a top 10 kid. He chooses to go this route. He chooses, and now the beauty of what he does now is it's not 4 or 5 freshmen. It's 2 freshmen and some veterans.
Right.
And that's what gives them a chance. But again, like Rob said, the biggest concern for me is you got 7 players. DJ Wagner's your 7th. Now, he can play. He's not having a great year, but DJ Wagner's played a ton of SEC basketball. So he's fine as your 7th man. But somebody gets hurt, somebody gets in foul trouble, you're in major trouble in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. It's going to be great. A couple of really good championship games to be played tomorrow before we get the Field of 68 bracket revealed. A couple of other teams punched their ticket to the big dance tonight. Dagan, I imagine that's where we want to go next in the afters here. Yes, look at the automatic qualifiers here. Any of these kind of jump out to you? I think a lot of folks were expecting to see Miami of Ohio there instead of Akron, but nonetheless, John Gross with a nice win there, getting Akron back to the dance. Howard out of the MEAC, Prairie View A&M punching their ticket tonight. Just thoughts on a couple of teams winning their conference titles tonight.
Yeah, I thought, obviously, watching that Akron game, it was interesting for a couple levels. Number one, you had Travis Steele now is going to have to sweat it out tomorrow, Miami University. They're probably going to get in, but he's not going to sleep well tonight. You know who is?
Right.
His brother, John Gross from Akron, who is now punched his ticket with winning the conference tournament, the MAC title, against Todd Kowalczyk, who, man, did I feel bad for Todd K. Todd K, think about this, 8 years at Green Bay. I think it was 16th year right now at Toledo. He's won, 450 games, almost 500 games, I think, career. He's been so good in his career, and he was so close. He has never gotten to the NCAA tournament. They were up late. They ended up kind of blowing it. Then obviously there was a big three at the end for Akron to win it with 6 seconds left. And I feel for Todd Kowalczyk, man. I feel for that guy.
Yep. I think it's awesome that we're going to have a 2-bid MAC. It's just so fun.
Let's hope.
Don't
say it yet until it happens. It hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet. I'd be really surprised if it doesn't.
Me too.
And the funny part about it is that the team that is going to be the most likely one out of that group to be able to make a run in the tournament is the team that won the tournament title and not the team that went 31-0 this season. I think Akron is probably going to be a higher seed and a better team than Miami is. I love that Akron team. The shot that Shema Scott hit to send it to win the game was like a step back 32-footer from the wing, and it was just like there's like 7 seconds left in the game. That was ridiculous, man. 43-2 in his last 45 games in the MAC. John Gross, got to give him a shout out. To me, there were two really, really important title games. We already knew the MAC was going to be a 2-bid MAC, or had the opportunity to be a 2-bid MAC because of the Miami thing. There were two really, really important results in conference tournament championship games. The first was Utah State, because Utah State is going to dance. They're a lock for the tournament. And they beat San Diego State in the championship of the Mountain West. And if they don't win that game, that is a bubble that bursts. That is a bubble that pops. That is a team that is sitting there in Oklahoma, Texas, someone like that, that is waiting to hear their name called, that is not going to hear their name called. And Utah State found a way to be able to get that done. And that makes up for the fact that in the A-10, Dayton knocked off St. Louis in one of the most ridiculous finishes I've ever seen in my entire life. The last 45 seconds of that Dayton-St. Louis game was complete chaos. And everything that I love about this ridiculous sport of college basketball. You got a missed layup, you got a tip out, you got a three that the Connor kid hit. At the other end of the floor, Robbie Avila knocks down a three to put St. Louis back ahead with like 6 seconds left. And then you got Dirk driving to the lane. He throws up some crazy shot. You got a tip in from Emmanuel Latang. Then Dayton storms the floor with their best player who hadn't played in the last 12 minutes of the game and an assistant coach trying to pull him back. You didn't get a technical foul called. There were 0.6 seconds left on the like. It was utter insanity, and that it was beautiful the way that it all kind of played out there in Pittsburgh. But Dayton beating St. Louis means that the A-10 is going to be at minimum a 2-bid league, and if Dayton beats VCU, there's a very real chance that we could have a 3-bid Atlantic 10, Jeff. How about that?
Yeah, that would be good for the good old A-10 podcast. No doubt about that. And good for the swan song for the commissioner, Bernie, in terms of saying goodbye with 3 bids. That would be a hell of a year. It would also be cool for Anthony Grant, who's been through a lot. Mm-hmm. We know he's been through a lot, obviously. Couple of years ago with the passing of his daughter, the fan base getting on him a little bit. And again, I say it all the time. Rob's probably tired of me saying it, but like, you're not going to find a better human being than Anthony Grant in this business. And I'm rooting for him. Because I am rooting for the 3-bid Atlantic 10. I think it'd be really cool. Martelli's done a good job there. Obviously, we know what Church has done, and he's had a lot hanging over his head probably over the last couple of weeks too. You wonder sometimes how much of a distraction it is for some of these coaches, right? Like, he's heard and, talking to his agent and dealing with, Syracuse and is Cincinnati going to open? Kansas State, they're all going after Josh Schertz. And he's human. He's human, and he can try to do the best job he can and stay in focus with his team. But it's still got to be hard to do that. And St. Louis has faltered down the stretch. I'm not saying it's necessarily because of this, but again, these guys are human, and they're being forced to make these decisions quicker during the season because the ADs are no longer waiting for them until the end of the season because of the portal.
We got a couple more championship tickets to be punched tomorrow as well in the Ivy League. Penn and Yale battling it out at noon Eastern time, and then in the American Athletic Conference, Wichita State and South Florida will be playing. That's 3:15 p.m. The other ones we covered as well: Purdue and Michigan, Dayton and VCU in a potential 3-bid, A10, Vandy and Arkansas as well in the SEC. Dagan, is there anything else we'd like to hit here in the afters? Anything we missed?
Yes, Sam. You just mentioned it. Let's get a preview of the Big Ten and SEC championships tomorrow. Just a few minutes on each.
Yeah. Oh, we can start. Let's start the Big Ten because that's kind of where we started the show here. Michigan won the lone regular season, as we mentioned, between these two. It was in Mackey Arena, 90-81. 4 games in 4 days for Purdue. I think they're 6.5-point favorites right now. Michigan is, according to our friends at BetMGM. The first meeting, if I'm remembering correctly, you guys correct me, but Michigan did a great job establishing their bigs with Mara, Morez Johnson Jr., obviously, and Yak. So they combined for, I think it was like 35 points, 24 boards. I think TKR had a pretty good game in this one. Oscar Clough was MIA. I think he had like 4 points and 3 rebounds. So thoughts on the rematch here? Go ahead, Jeff. We want to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I like Michigan here. I like Michigan. I think, again, Purdue's, gotten some confidence back. They're going to come into this one, but I just think it's so hard, even for Braden Smith in this game, because of the length and athleticism that he's going to face all over the court. Same thing with Lawyer. It's just not a good matchup for Purdue. It's just not a good matchup with all this, length, athleticism, strength. It's not a great matchup for Oscar Clough, for TKR. But again, I think, if you're Purdue and you play Michigan tight tomorrow, and again, listen, if Braden can go for 20 and Lawyer's on and they rebound, they gotta be good on the glass if you're Purdue. You can't get demolished on the glass tomorrow, and you better make sure you get back in transition.
Yeah, so the first matchup, Sam, what kind of happened was Michigan took Clough out of the game because they didn't guard him on the perimeter. And his presence allowed a Dymar or whoever the other big guy was to kind of stand in the paint.
Yeah.
And it made life really difficult for TKR to get anything going. TKR was trying to be aggressive. He missed some shots early on. They went to a smaller lineup where they played TKR at the 5 and Jack Benner at the 4. And then once Michigan started switching everything, they would just hunted those matchups with TKR and threw it into the post. And he went nuts in the second half, but they were already down by 20 because Purdue's defensive game plan was basically we're going to let these guys shoot threes. And I think Michigan was 13 from 25 and 3 in that matchup, and Michigan's going to shoot 13 from 25. So you don't have a chance. 6.5, it feels a little short for what this Michigan team is in theory. But I just feel like Purdue's like they're going to come out fired up, man. Like I think the team's got a point to prove. And it feels like a Braden Smith kind of blow up game, doesn't it? And it doesn't make sense. And I don't think there's anybody that's going to look at that matchup on paper and kind of say, yeah, you know what? This is a game that Purdue can win. This is a game that Purdue is going to go out there and show something. And we said the same thing about Vanderbilt yesterday on this very broadcast. So I kind of think that we're going to I don't want to go so far as saying that I think Purdue is going to win, but I think that we're going to be in store for like a classic. I think that this is going to come down to the last possession or two. We're going to be in the final minute and someone's going to hit a shot to have it be a game winner. And I think Braden Smith is going to be like, I'm going to call my shot right now. Braden Smith, 27 points, 13 assists, and he hits a big shot down the stretch that makes everyone say, "Oh, okay, Braden Smith is back." That's what I'm going with.
It's funny you say 13 assists because that would break the NCAA record Bobby Hurley set a ways back. But I'm not going to compare.
Is he that close now? That's actually
13
the
assists.
most.
Yeah,
that's the best part about this run is that he's now guaranteed to get 2 more games, so he's going to break that record. Right, like there was some real doubts if they lost in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, he might not have a chance to be able to break that record. So maybe that's why he's not scoring and getting these assists. Maybe that's why he's putting up all these numbers. Maybe that's why he's averaging 5 points in this tournament. It's because he wants that record. He wants that
The
record.
27 points is wild though, Rob. I'm not comparing the teams, but I remember vividly watching Purdue against UConn in the national championship game, and the size from that UConn team really caused some problems for Braden Smith. He got it going a little bit in that second half, but man, like clinging against him, Daimara, like there's some similarities you could tie between what Michigan does well and what that UConn team did well in 2023. We can move it along here. We can get to the SEC championship game. We already kind of hit on a little bit, Vandy, in what they did against Arkansas. We mentioned if they were to win it for Arkansas, would be their first SEC title since 2000. Thoughts on the matchup here? Again, on paper, this is probably a better matchup, believe it or not, than Vandy against Florida. But here we are in the SEC title game between these two. Jeff, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, like we talked about, great guard matchups in this one, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Tyler Tanner, Duke Miles against the younger group of freshmen and Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas. I think it's going to come down to – it's funny because you think it's going to be a major home court advantage, right, for Vandy playing in Nashville. I bet there's more Arkansas fans at that game. There's more people doing the annoying Woo Pig Suey chant than there are Commodore fans. Can you do that chant, Sam? Can you do that effectively?
Woo Pig, Suey, Pig.
Good
right?
job. Good job.
That's what we got.
I don't know if Vandy's going to, again, make the shots they made yesterday. And I think Brazil's a tough matchup because, frankly, his length and athleticism, they're going to be playing, for an SEC tournament title. I expect him to come out and play well. I don't know, man. Like, I love Vandy. I just think their bigs just played so over their head today, and I'm not sure that's going to happen again. But again, the key might be Darius Acuff and how many minutes Calipari, who has said and reiterated it today, like he doesn't love these SEC, the league tournaments, doesn't place as much value in them, and he really doesn't need to. They're probably already locked in at this point. What are they? They're 3? What were they, 3 or 4?
3 or 4.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're already in that 3-4 range anyway. They're not going to go down from that. So if I'm Cal, I'm kind of being smart about how much I play Darius Acuff with that ankle injury because, again, he struggled today. I don't know if it was because of that, but I know he's gotten a lot of treatment after games lately, missed the game a week or so ago. So I'm gonna take Arkansas in this game, thinking that Acuff's going to play, have a bounce back game, and Brazil's going to really come to play in this one.
The first time that they played Goodman, they only played once. They played at Bud Walton Arena, and Arkansas won 93-68. They jumped on them early. It wasn't even like Acuff played great. It was just it was one of those games where we said afterwards, this is what happens when Vanderbilt sees length and athleticism. The thing that I would be concerned about here, and why I'm hesitant to go all in on Arkansas, is that I think when you guard them, because of the ball screen stuff that Vanderbilt does, you have to be so disciplined defensively. And I don't know if that's what Arkansas is. So I kind of think Vanderbilt gets this done. I kind of think that this is going to end up being something where they win by like 10 or 12, and we end up saying at the end of the day, oh, wow, like Tyler Tanner, okay, Darius Acuff was SEC Player of the Year, but Tyler Tanner looks like might be like you're afterwards, you're going to be saying to yourself, Goodman, Tyler Tanner's the best point guard in college basketball. You're going to be saying that to yourself again.
You know what I might be saying? Mark Byington's the coach of the year, the national coach of the year, if they win the SEC tournament. And I know we've got some other guys. We went with Travis Steele. Shire's had a great year. We've had all these guys. But, man, what Mark Byington has done in back-to-back years in his first 2 years at Vandy is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good game tomorrow. I really do. I wish I was sticking around, but I got to get back to Charleston to prepare for our marathon shows tomorrow night, where we start at 5:30? 5:30?
5:30. We're going live. Real quick, if you're listening to this right now, unsubscribe on Apple Podcasts and resubscribe to the podcast. There is an issue with Apple Podcasts that it is not refreshing in the feed, and to be able to get it to refresh in your feed, you got to unsubscribe and resubscribe. I hate that this has happened now. It is very frustrating, but make sure you guys go do that.
A little bit of an inconvenient time for that to happen, but I did. Hey, for what it's worth, I did do that today, and it does work. So go ahead and do that because it wasn't working on my Apple Podcast. So unsubscribe, resubscribe, and I promise you will have all of those podcasts up to date. Dagan, is there anything else? By the way, I might take the
I got
over
one more.
in that
I
Arkansas
got one
Vandy
more
game.
thing.
That was
I got one
165
more
and a half.
thing
Go
that
ahead. Yeah.
I want to show on this. It was a cool moment that I think we should play. After Duke won the third ACC title in Shire's brief career, he was up at the podium fielding questions from a bunch of reporters, one of which, an 8-year-old named Noah, asked him a more difficult question than Rob Dauster would ever have asked.
Last question right there.
This is the best question of the night, I bet.
How do you win every game?
I see 2 losses, next to us, but I win every game because I have the best daughter in the world. That's how. Okay, I love you.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that gets me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that gets me. It's different, man. Like, I've known John Shire since he was like 15. To watch John Shire, the father, with an 8-year-old daughter, first of all, makes me feel really effing old. Number one,
You are.
but it's
You
so
are
cool.
really old.
I know. It's just so cool to see. So that's the part. Like, I never ever, like, when I see a coach bring up their kid on the podium or do what he did there, I'm like, I remember bringing Talia to some games and bringing her in the back or whatever. Like, I'm sure your dad did it with you too, Sam. If you can do it, you do it, man. You do it. Life's too short. Life's too short to worry about like what people think. So I love Shire did that. I love that Noah asked the question, and man, it's so cute. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
I got one last thing that I want to hit on too. Kennesaw State clinched a bid to the NCAA tournament today, which is a program that was, I believe, 1 in 29 when the late Amir Abdur-Rahim took it over. Anton Petway, he got them back to the NCAA tournament today. And if Brian Hodgson can win tomorrow, that's another program that Amir Abdur-Rahim was able to turn around, turn into one of the better programs in its league. And that'd be pretty cool if 2 programs that he turned around were able to get into the NCAA tournament in the same season.
Yeah, great shout too, Rob. That's very, very noteworthy. Watch tomorrow too what USF does against Wichita State. Dagan, anything else we want to hit on before we get out of here? 12:45 a.m. Happy Selection Sunday, everybody. We will see you in a mere couple of hours. Rob has an early flight to get back home. We have got brackets coming out later today, and we got you covered starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you are dialed in. We'll get you covered and updated all throughout the course of the night. How to fill out your bracket, sleepers, Cinderellas, all that good stuff. We will have it all on the Field of 68 After Dark. Storylines is what this time of year is all about, and we love following it and covering it every single step of the way. For our entire crew, Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman, appreciate Mike Latula popping on with us as well. I am Sam Ravitch saying so long. We'll see you later tonight, everybody, on the Field of 68 After Dark.